Hello, everyone. This is John David Bennett. I am the Dean of Curricular Innovation at Mercersburg Academy, and I'm here talking with three of Mercersburg dynamic teachers about how they've made adjustments and what they're doing in the virtual classroom. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning. Well,
all right. Wells, we'll start with you. Will you introduce yourself and tell us what you teach?
Hi, my name is Wells Gray. I teach ceramic sculpture and AP art history.
All right. Laurie?
Hi, I'm Laurie Mufson. I'm the Director of the Arts, and this term I'm teaching an Acting 1 class.
Dave?
Hello, I'm Dave Holzwarth, and I'm teaching physics.
All right.
And AP.
So, how have you modified your courses for online learning? Wells, I'd like to start with you on that one because it seems like your modifications were the most challenging, probably.
We hit the formal qualities in ceramics, so it's more about structure. We use paper mache to talk about that, to make it accessible and easy for students to be considerate about material. They don't have to go out and buy, number one. They just need water, and most people have flour and paper of some sort. So we talk about the communication of an object and using the parts of a bowl to talk about what kind of bowl it is. Is it for fruit? Is it, the utility of cereal? Or is it a device to communicate, like in English, a sentence or a paragraph using the parts? And then we do mimic using homemade Play-Doh. So they'll go through the properties and pretending it's clay, but it is not. And keeping it very basic so that they do learn about how to construct in clay, and then if and when I do get them to the next level, that they'll already have that foundation.
All right. Dave, tell us about moving the physics lab to Linden Avenue.
Well, I did bring quite a few things home. 3D printer, a dynamics track, dynamics cart, spring scales. So I thought I'd set up my my office as best I could to mimic the lab and have these tools accessible, because in the laboratory, you're quite the intuitive teacher because everything's there. You're in the space, the color of the walls, everything reminds you of things maybe you taught a year ago. Oh, that's right, it's October, let's do this. So I'm in this office and I'm a little out of sorts. So I'm training my brain to a new space in order to provide this instruction, which I hope is relevant. And that's probably where I'm focused now, is making it as relevant as possible. To Wells Gray's point, I like the idea that, find some home available home products. In the ceramics course, we used a soda can and poked a hole in it, and for the kids, everybody has a soda can, and they're discovering Archimedes' principle, and coupling that with kinematics and two-dimension projectile motion. So that was a fun activity. I wish I had more of the lab activities, but so I'll stop there.
All right. And Laurie? The acting classroom?
Well, the acting classroom and acting is really all about interacting. And we're used to interacting in person and taking energy off of your partner and responding. And when you're doing that through screens and you're not in the same place, that's really, really challenging. And so the other thing that I've noticed is that everything takes longer. So the idea of saying, I'm going to pare things down. We're not going to get through all the kinds of projects that we would have done if we were meeting in class. And we're going to focus on the elements that are really, really necessary to understand the theory, and then apply it in a long scene. And if we don't get farther than that one long scene, that's okay. One of the things that's been really helpful is using the virtual classroom. So, in the breakout rooms, because students need to be interacting with each other, need to be planning with each other. I have a couple of students who are in Asia, and one of the first small scenes that we did was about two roommates. And that one was in China, the other was in South Korea. And that's very far apart, but our kids, even if one's in Hagerstown and one's in Mercersburg, they're just as far apart. But because we were meeting at a different time, I wanted them to find a time to meet so they could share and create their scene. And they ended up recording it. And then I was able to share it with the rest of the class. And they were able to have a conversation that the kids in Asia were then able to listen to later, to hear the feedback from their scene. And they were just brilliant about how they created the scene so that they were in the same environment and how they were interacting with each other. And that's the kind of work that the kids are doing, is figuring out on their own, how are they going to solve the problem of being in the same space, and creating that interaction between them so that it feels dynamic and that they feel like they're really responding to each other. But that's really, really challenging.
So how do you guys feel the students are doing with all this?
I think they're making the best out of it. I like our kids. Most of them are buying in and performing what's being asked of them. I see them being positive and making the best out of it.
Yeah, mine have been super patient with me. I did a couple of things in the first couple of weeks that were really dreadful. Like, they didn't work at all. And they were so forgiving. It's okay, Mr. Bennett. So I won't use that one again. That's probably a pretty good idea, Mr. Bennett. But yeah, because, you know, we're all beginners in this thing. All skilled teachers, but beginners in this environment. Dave? Oh, go ahead, Laurie.
I found a similar experience with them. I just been so impressed with most of them trying to be as positive as they can and being forgiving of me in the same way. In acting classes, usually start with some kind of warm up and some kind of game. So I think it was the second class, I tried to do a pretty typical game, which is telling that I thought they could do. We would normally be in a circle and they could tell a story one word at a time. And it was just a disaster because they weren't picking up on each other and the lag time and everything. And it was like, just didn't work. And it was like, okay, not going to work. Sorry, guys. And they were totally forgiving of all of that. And I just think they've been wonderful. And really upfront about how they're doing and how they're feeling.
Yeah. I say one of my focal points or focuses is the reward system, how to incentivize this online instruction. I brought my bell, so every time they answer a question, there's that Pavlov, kind of bring in the familiar. So especially with, I say my female students, they like to take notes. And I've always had the saying, 90% of communication is nonverbal. So when I have the gallery, and if I see pen going to paper while I'm saying something, I'm like, I can tell you're taking notes. You don't have to tell me you're taking notes, but so I make note of that. So that's been fun. Adjusting the reward system. And we have an interesting one when the kids are on campus in the classroom, and we certainly have a very interesting reward system now that we're doing online learning. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that. The other adjustment has been what I thought being present in the, I guess they call it the synchronous. And then when I produce asynchronous material, I've been posting to YouTube these things called thinking out loud sessions. And then I'll get an email, Mr. Holzwarth, can we have more of those? I'm like, oh gosh. And they take way more time to make. I'm like, and I get that. So, so that's been the big adjustment. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, Sal Khan tells stories about how when he made his first videos, eventually became Khan Academy, that the reason why he came up with the idea to create the website was his little cousins, his cousins who he was working with, said that they liked the video him more than the actual him. which meant that they could rewind, they could do right. Anyway, that's probably what your students are experiencing as well. What about some unexpected positives and joys that you've found in these last several weeks?
I'm going to say just seeing them
Mm-hmm.
and being able to see them on screen. I miss them so much. And there's a lot of kids I don't get to see because I'm only teaching one class and we don't have Stony Batter. But to see them every day, well, every 3 days now, and connecting with them makes me feel so, it makes me feel so good. And actually there's a couple of kids, it's become a pattern that they are the first and the second kid always to arrive. And we have this little chat at the beginning of class before everyone else is there about how things are going. And it's like, they're not planning it. It's just what their timing is. And it's like regular as clockwork. And having those special moments with them are really a joy.
Dave Wells, go ahead.
Yeah, it's about learning a little bit. Although the studio dynamic is missing, obviously, it's understanding how that we could even step back more because we're so remote, and that there is success, regardless of the kids' talent, that they are understanding what to do, and that without us being there, that they are actually succeeding through these projects or through these assignments that we're posting to them. And so it's almost like, how much can we allow them to self-learn through all of this when we come back into the classroom?
Mm-hmm.
This may be a little too specific, but I wanted to give the kids an idea what next year would be like, because they're focused on the now. And so I invited my nephew, who's an undergraduate mechanical engineer at Cal, freshman, and he came to the Zoom. I left the conversation, and this was appearing in my visualizer, and he had the normal high school experience in LA, off the chart science and math student. Good, very social. And he was all focused on prom, high school stuff, running around in cars with friends. And now his experience at Cal, although they're at home right now, he says, it's going to be exciting for you guys. You're going to go from all fixated about high school. Now you're going to be collaborating and working with really great projects. And this was my AP physics class. If you do well on the mechanics, you'll pass out or get credit for the first semester. And that got all the kids all excited to hear that. I've been saying it, but they got it from a college student who's in an engineering program. Yeah. So that was one of my bright moments. Again, can I have more of those? I don't know, but that was one of the joys.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it when there's a whole class laugh, because they're a lot further in between now. And like my advisees and I were trying to sing happy birthday to two of my advisees on the same day, and it was just terrible. And coming out of it, there's just this roaring laughter, and glad we didn't record it. Now that we're in the last 5 weeks, what do you want Mercersburg students and families to know?
It makes you a better teacher. And I think the students, this is something they're going to be dealing with, this style of collaboration and presentation. It's been going on when kids were in session in college, meeting on Zoom with office hours with professors, interacting with lectures at odd times. So I think this has been a good drill for the kids, getting them ready for the future. And it may be with us for a few more months and maybe in the fall, but again, I think it's made everybody better in some regards in that, to adapt.
And that was the word I was going to use, that we can adapt, and that there is not one way to do things, and we can find solutions, and we can find those solutions together. And it's in that together finding the solution that we become better, stronger, more vibrant, creative. And in a mini way, that's what my kids are doing in having to create a little scene that they have to do it together, and they've got to figure it out. And I said to them, you may know something that I don't know, and you're going to figure out something in how to do this that I wouldn't have thought about. So don't let it, let those inspirations come to you and bring it forward and try it. And that ability that we have to make those adjustments and build off of each other's idea and each other's strength.
And just a huge thank you to them for, for being a part of all of this. I mean, it really, it really is a communal effort. That, providing for their children and making allowance for them to continue in this way.
Well, I think that's a great place to end. Thank the three of you for being here relatively early in the morning. I know you have busy schedules right now. And everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.